Ihr werdet in den nächsten 2 Wochen das Geschenk erleben, ein anderer Mensch zu sein.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Hobo, a wandering podcast about cinema. We are here at the 79th Venice Film Festival, and we are very happy to introduce Alex Schad and Dimitri Schad and to talk to them about their new film, Skin Deep. So the film is about a young couple deciding to visit a remote island and hoping they might be able to solve some of the problems that are, sinking their relationship in a place that literally allows them to be someone else, thanks to the possibility of inhabiting other person body. And I would like to know what came first, the idea of exploring relationships between people or relationship between people and their body, and how these two ideas, that are the main ideas of the movie, intertwined in the writing phase of this film.
Well, I mean, the initial idea where we came from really was hasn't had anything to do with the body switch genre. The initial idea was to make a movie about a relationship and about the difficulties and struggle of a relationship. And we had this question in mind whether if it's possible to keep being in this relationship with a partner that and while the relationship undergoes this big change, and how that influences the relationship and the couple's dynamics actually.
And it's so much connected, really. So to come to your question, whether it was before like the relationship that we have ourselves with our own body or the relationship we have with other people, it's so intertwined, so you cannot really separate it, because most of us do exist in relationships, in loving relationships. So in any case, this division that we have between body and mind, we do have and experience it with and through the eyes of the other, who look at us, who love us, who find us attractive, and so on. So from the very beginning, basically, it was already intertwined.
And the film really lives off the ensemble. All of the actors had a huge task, and as they had to embody several characters. And they did a great job, since it is always possible to recognize the personality of each character, even though their bodies are always changing. How did you work with them on this?
Well, first of all, maybe I will start with with the process that what makes a great director is, of course, picking the right people. So casting was a very, very important part in that, because we needed people who are able to be, on the one hand, very, very skilled in terms of psychological depth, and on the other hand, have a big understanding of theater. So to play something which is larger than life and weirder than life. And at the same, so to combine these two, there are not too many people who are able to do that, who are at the same time very, very psychologically in depth and abstract at the same time, and magical, but not in a fairy tale-like thing. And so we searched a lot with people who can do both. And then it took a long time until we found everybody. And then we had a long rehearsal phase.
Yeah, when we had the luxury of having this beautiful ensemble, we spent I think it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks at the place where we were shooting actually, and it was like rehearsing a theater play kind of, that we, with the whole ensemble, we went through the script, through every scene all together, and developed the characters and scenes, and kept improvising and finding the right tone of it. But I mean, I had the luxury as a director. We were writing together for 3 years or something, or 4, and writing with the actor who's going to be the one playing it is magical. And I mean, so we were kind of rehearsing for 3 years through dialogue, right? and that was great as well. But it was a process. It took some time to nail it down and get it right.
I was really impressed by the actors and all the capacity of the impersonification one another.
They're great, yeah.
And your film does deal with the theme of body exchange, but not in the sense of a sci-fi background. There's no futuristic technology, but it is more like a spiritual challenge. And how did you develop this concept, and why did you decide not to include any sci-fi elements in your film, or have you ever thought about it during the writing phase?
Well, the writing phase was a very, very, very long one, and the script went through.
You can still see it in his face. It was long. It was really fucking long.
Long and painful.
I mean, it was. We had. I think this should be about draft 36 or 37 of the whole script. So we've written 37 different scripts.
And we're not talking about polishes.
No.
Or little rewrites or something. We're talking about tearing apart 100 pages and starting from zero.
And this was, so once we did, it was like five versions before the final version. We went into the final draft document and we scrolled through all the characters that have ever been attached to this project, and it were about 100 different characters just until the letter L. So it had a tone where it set really in a kind of futuristic dystopian thing, where we had a version of it when we really explored this capitalistic idea of it, that it's kind of a new startup thing. They develop this technology and then people start selling off their bodies, or maybe even their children's bodies. So it was really a dark Black Mirror-ish thing. Then we had a thing where we went really for the absurdity of a place where there are people dressed as bears and you can hunt them. So
that was great.
That was really great
draft,
and funny. Then with some Russian oligarchs who take this technology over. So we went in all the possible directions. It was really, we had this basic idea, and throughout the phase of almost 5 years, we went in any possible way, and this one felt right and honest and to be truthful to our topic and what we wanted to say, and less derailed. So to answer your question, yes, we did, and it wasn't pretty.
But I mean, it was a decision, right? We had a phase where we really where we kept writing a science fiction movie, like a classical science fiction with machines and all of that shit happening to your brain, and explanations, like tons of explanation how it works. But it didn't feel right because there is no real explanation for it. That's the first. And second, there's no need to. It's like this really poetic, wonderful, modern fairy tale-ish movie. And I love that, and that's why we, rather than going into the sci-fi corner, we choose to go in the like spiritual, religious corner, rather than to keep looking for the right images there. And so we were having this toolbox from like pictures of baptism and ayahuasca ceremonies and Gregorian chants and all of that, rather to come from a like spiritual place.
Because it's also so easy, you know, this the sci-fi thing of making everything look like it's a store that sells MacBooks and iPhones, you know, this clean white environment, and maybe have one bed lying there and people, you know, get their brains removed or get some USB sticks plugged in. It gets old quite fast, and what was very important for us from the very beginning was that we set it in a world that can survive, because this is actually the thing that if you watch science fiction, many science fiction movies, they get old super fast because the technology outruns itself, or is outrun by reality, and we wanted it to be a bit more timeless.
And I think that's the right decision, because it allows the film to have his own personality among all these, you know, Black Mirror ripoff that you're seeing all the time, that we see all the time, even here in Venice this year. So I think that's a really good choice.
So I noticed the music was particular Can you tell us?
I mean, I love the music in it. I really, really do.
Very minimal, no? Minimalist.
Yeah. It actually is. And we had this. There is this like Gregorian chant in it when at the end of the first act, and this was the whole basis of the music. Actually, we had that. We had that in mind with our wonderful composer Richard Ruzicka, who's like the best. He's a genius. And we had that, I think it was kind of 2 years prior to shooting. I had this melody in my head and we kept jamming around that one. And basically all of the music, and it's like this I think it's like a 6-tone melody or something. And we kept, all of the music is basically just a variation of that. So we had this Gregorian style and we kept developing it with like really soft female voice, and then like combine it with the cello. It's which is kind of inspired by the composer of Joker and Chernobyl, Hildur. I don't know her last name, and that was great to really experiment there. I love the music.
I love the music. I'm a musician, so I love that. Yes.
Great. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we talked about the performance of the actors, and that's one of the main focus of the film. So the camera follows them without any intrusive movements, and that demand too much attention from the viewer. So I would like to know, what was your approach to directing this in this case?
Well, I mean, for cinematography, it was just to be as reduced as possible. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of a camera that draws too much attention. I hate that. Yeah. I really love when the camera is like a participant, like the viewer's eyes, to give the place that the actors need to act in it, and not take too much of attention. That was like the first, and the second one was then to go with the main with the main character, the character of Layla. We start like this with this really reduced and static camera with longer shots, and which is just, we don't have much movement. And in the second act, when she feels free and alive again, the camera starts moving suddenly, and it acts like a character itself, and it becomes like this pas de deux sort of dance together, and I like that. That's where we came from, like cinematography.
Yeah, and the collaboration of you two, you know, goes behind the camera and in front of the camera, because of course Dimitri is one of the actors in this movie, and he's also co-written the script. Can you tell us, how does this kind of relationship work on set and off the set?
Well, first of all, it's our 10-year anniversary of working together this year, so we had different phases, and 5 years from that were eaten up by this project. So we went through very, very different phases in there. And the way we developed ourselves, so artistically as individuals, of course, and the way we felt within our lives, it always has a reflection upon that. But the great part is that I know that he is this brilliant and horrifically honest director who is completely against anything that wants to draw any effects or wants to be demands attention, but he wants to be very, very truthful to that, and I hate him for that sometimes, because of course when you write, you want something to be that somebody reads it and said, yeah, just fucking love it, and you don't get it from him, because it's always, no, don't buy it. It's just I don't buy it. And you think, why? It's the 40th time I rewrite this scene. Sometimes, yeah, it just doesn't work. Yeah, so it's.
Am I that bad? Really?
No. You're relentless, and no, and it's this, and it is that you will never shoot anything that doesn't work for you on paper. And just that to know that this is somebody who doesn't play dice or who doesn't, you know, go into a shoot and say, yeah, we will figure it out then, because usually you don't, because shooting a movie is like avoiding 1,000 mistakes per day. Trying to avoid that, where the weather is bad and somebody is sick or an actor is drunk or whatever. So, and this is why it's sometimes it's tedious and it's exhausting, but then when you look at it and you think, yeah, thank God we put in this work and this effort, because I guess in our modern times, when we have so much different forms of entertainment that is being put out there so fast without any form of, you know, second or third or fourth draft, it's really, you know, we get lazy with that. And just the fact that we have a shiny, well-edited series of 8 episodes where, you know, you have content for basically 5 and the rest is... It's good to know that I can work with somebody who doesn't allow any form of bullshit if it's not true and if it's not really heartfelt. So I hope this answers your question. It's complicated. It's the same as our work in the movie.
Anything to add, Alex?
No, nothing. I'm just humbled by everything he said right now. I mean, I love him for being like the most intelligent person in the world, and he's an amazing actor, and he's the reason why I got into this job in the first place. He's the older one. You went there first, and I followed. So he's kind of the director of my life, and it is so great to do it together. I love that. And all of the compliments, I hear them, I still think I'm doing all right as a director. I think I'm okay, and you're a great writer, but I think that we're like the Rolling Stones of making movies. We're kind of okay as parts, but in a sum, we're like better than all the others. So I like that.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones of film. I like that.
It's
good,
philosophical, no? The 1 + 1 makes 3, not 2.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
amazing.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for your time and for this interesting conversation, and hope the film goes well, and we really loved it, and so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ihr werdet in den nächsten 2 Wochen das Geschenk erleben, ein anderer Mensch zu sein.